right, let's talk about the big one, the part of the IELTS exam that so many people dread, the reading test. But we're not just here to get you through it. We're here to show you how to outsmart it, to actually master this system. So let's dive right in. First things first, we have to get one brutal but absolutely essential truth out on the table. The idea that you need to read every single word in this test, it's a trap. And getting that into your head, really understanding it, is the single most important step you can take to completely change your approach and, believe me, your score. So, why is that so critical? Because you've got to realize the IELTS reading test isn't just about how good your English is. It's really a speed game pretending to be an English test. It's designed from the ground up to see if you can work smart under pressure, not just if you know a lot of fancy words. And if you go into it using the same old reading habits you use for a novel or a textbook, well, you're not really taking a test. You're entering what I call the unwinnable race. You're playing a game that is rigged against you from the very beginning. And I can tell you the outcome of that race right now. If you try to read every word, every sentence, every paragraph, the clock is going to beat you every single time. There are no exceptions to this rule. So what's the plan? How do we beat the clock? Well, the plan boils down to two secret weapons. And these aren't just little tips and tricks. These are the core techniques that let you outsmart the test instead of just trying to outwork it. And here they are, skimming and scanning. The easiest way to think about it is this. Skimming is for getting the big picture. Scanning is for a specific hunt. Now, so many students get these confused or just kind of mush them together, but they are completely different tools and you have to use them for different jobs. So let's break down that first weapon, skimming. This is all about getting that big picture understanding of a passage and doing it fast. What is it exactly? Well, it's just reading quickly to get the main idea. Think about how you scroll through social media captions or glance at news headlines on a website. You're not reading every single word, right? You're just getting the general gist, the vibe of the story. That's skimming. Now, for the IELTS test, skimming has three very specific jobs. First, you're trying to figure out what the heck the passage is even about. Second, you're building a quick mental map of where all the information is. And third, and this is a big one, it helps reduce that initial, oh my gosh, panic when you see a huge wall of text. So how do you do it right? Here's the playbook. It's super simple. 1, read the title. 2, read the entire first paragraph. 3, for every other paragraph, you only read the very first sentence and the very last sentence. And 4, this is crucial. You have to actively force yourself to ignore the little details like names and dates for now. The whole thing should take you like 1 to 2 minutes tops. It's just as important to know what not to do. The most common mistakes are slipping back into reading word for word, hitting the brakes every time you see a word you don't know, or rereading paragraphs because you feel like you missed something. The moment you do any of those, you're not skimming anymore. You're right back in that unwinnable race. Okay, so we've mapped out the battlefield with skimming. Now it's time to bring in our second weapon. Let's talk about scanning, the specific hunt. Think of scanning not as reading, but as hunting. You already know exactly what your target is from the question, and now you're just searching for that one piece of information. A name, a date, a keyword, like a sniper looking through a scope. It's all about focus and precision.
And the process is very systematic. First, you read the question, and you underline your keywords, names, numbers, important nouns. Then your eyes just fly down the page. And I mean it, you are not reading full sentences. You only stop when your eye snags on a keyword or something that means the same thing. Then, and only then, do you slow down and read the sentence around it to find your answer. It's a surgical strike. So we have our two weapons, but how do we combine them into one killer system? Well, this is the high scores strategy.
The rule of thumb is really simple. When you first see a passage or you just need the main idea of a paragraph, you skim. But when you need to answer a specific question or find a hard detail like a date, you scan. A high scorer knows which tool to grab without even thinking about it. So here's how that whole system looks in action. Step 1, you skim the whole passage for 1 or 2 minutes, just to get your bearings. Step 2, you take a quick look, you skim the questions to get an idea of what you should be hunting for. Step 3, you go back to the passage and you scan with purpose to pinpoint those answers. It's clean, it's methodical, it's efficient. And just to show you how powerful that is, let's look at the alternative. This is the low scorers process. It's pure chaos. They try to read everything, immediately forget half of it. They start to panic. They start rereading random parts of the text, and they just watch that clock tick down to 0. It is an absolute recipe for disaster. And this lets you in on a little secret about how the test is designed. You know how the passages get harder and longer from 1 to 3? That's on purpose. It's designed to reward students who use these techniques and to absolutely crush the ones who don't. The test is built for this strategy. By the time you get to that third passage, if you're not skimming and scanning, you are just not going to finish. You see, when you master these skills, the whole power dynamic shifts. You are now in control of the test paper. It's not controlling you. You decide where to look, you decide what to focus on, and you decide how to spend your precious time. You're the one in the driver's seat. Which really brings us to the final question. Now that you know the strategy, now that you see how the test is actually built, are you ready to stop being a passive reader and start taking control? Your practice starts right now.